Hello friends, welcome to Manu Law Classes. मेरा नाम गौतम दीक्षित है. Today in this video we are going to discuss the important news from the Hindu edition of 17th March 2023. So let's start our news. Let's move to the explainer series. Now in the explainer series we are going to do the Sri Lanka's presidency. Okay. So as you know there are majorly अगर हम democracy को अगर देखें तो we call it as two types of government we have. One we have parliamentary form of government, ठीक है. जैसे for example India, United Kingdom, we all have parliamentary form of government. So in parliamentary form of government, if you will see, then we also have somewhere we have president. In case of India, in case of United Kingdom, we have the monarch. So there will be president. We take the case of India. There will be president and there will be prime minister. Okay. So in this form of government, what happens is that the real executive power, it is in the hands of prime minister. Okay, so prime minister is the head of the government and the president is a ceremonial head. Okay, head of the state. Okay, but not the head of the government. And यहाँ पे जो होता है prime minister in parliamentary form of government, the prime minister and the council of minister, they are responsible to the Lok Sabha or to the parliament. Okay, so that is called as parliamentary form of government. The next is a presidential form of government. So in this presidential form of government, if you will see, presidential form जो होता है, जैसे कि आपने यूएस में भी देखा होगा, तो वहाँ पे the head of the state and the head of the government both is president. Okay, we have parliament over there also, but there is strict division of power between the executive and the legislative branch. Okay, so यहाँ पे जो है presidential form of government, इसको हम कहते हैं. फाइन. तो अगर आप पार्लियामेंट्री फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट को देखोगे तो यू कैन कॉल इट एज अ रिस्पॉन्सिबल गवर्नमेंट. ओके, व्हाई वी कॉल इट एज रिस्पॉन्सिबल गवर्नमेंट? बिकॉज ओवर हियर द प्राइम मिनिस्टर एंड द काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर, they are responsible to the parliament, and in case of India it has been mentioned in the constitution that the council of minister is responsible to Lok Sabha. Okay, so these are the two difference. Now here we are taking the case of Sri Lanka, where when Sri Lanka became independent in 1948, they started with parliamentary form of government, but after around 30 years they switched to presidential form of government, and now there is a criticism going against the presidential form of government. Earlier several amendments were passed to move back to parliamentary form of government, or to people the power of executive. Okay, that is president, or to give less power to president and more power to parliament, but then it was overturned by the 20th amendment, which was passed by Gotabaya Rajapaksa. So let's take some important information from here. So if you will just see that the demand for abolishment of presidential form of government in Sri Lanka has once again taken root after this economic crisis, which culminated into political crisis. So there was a popular chant when people were protesting. Okay, the people struggle, that was Janatha Aragalaya. ये जनता अरगलिया है, ये जो है ये पीपल्स प्रोटेस्ट है. जो पीपल दे वर प्रोटेस्टिंग इन श्रीलंका, तो इसका जो नाम था वो था जनता अरगलिया. सो दे वर chanting a slogan that is got as Gota go home, means Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who was the president at that point of time. So they wanted to go home, means to leave the presidential post. But during that time only, there were various discussions which were going on related to the office of the executive president in Sri Lanka. Okay, they say that the office of the executive president, which bestows unchecked powers on one individual, okay, was as much if not more of a problem. तो यहाँ पे कह रहे हैं कि that a particular family which is ruling the country is not a problem, but a post which is a president which has unbridled, unchecked power, that is the problem. So that's why the executive presidency system of Sri Lanka, it came into focus, and now there is a call to abolish this presidential form of government. Now coming to the history, if you will see that this executive presidency in Sri Lanka, it was introduced in 1978. So if you will see that Sri Lanka, when it became independent in 1948, it adopted a parliamentary democracy, but it adopted a republican constitution in 1972, in which parliamentary democracy continued. श्रीलंका ने सिर्फ एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अडॉप्ट नहीं किया, ऐसे कि हमने सिर्फ एक ही कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अडॉप्ट किया है 1949 में, बट यहाँ पे बहुत सारे कंट्रीज ऐसे हैं जिन्होंने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को काफ़ी चेंज किया हुआ है. ठीक है, अब यहाँ पे क्या हुआ कि 6 साल के बाद 1978 में द सेकेंड रिपब्लिकन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन केम एंड इट चेंज द पार्लियामेंट्री फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट टू द प्रेसिडेंशियल फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट एंड अलॉन्ग विद दैट इट वेस्टेड द प्रेसिडेंट्स ऑफिस विद एनॉर्मस पावर। तो जब से ये आइडिया आया टू चेंज द पार्लियामेंट्री फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट टू द प्रेसिडेंशियल फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, तब से सिविल सोसाइटी, अपोजिशंस हो गए, वो सब इस चीज़ को प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं, राइट। सो यहाँ पर आप देखेंगे that Srilanka's left especially played a major role, okay, which has been stated in this protest, fine. Now if you will just see that the reign of the executive, now this is important for us, that executive presidency soon became a secure spot in its architect Jayawardhane's office. मतलब who brought this executive presidency? Then it was Jayawardhane, okay. So if you will just see over here that the new president in turn found the system all the power he needed to nourish his ambitions. So see some of the examples which have been given over here when there was an executive presidency in Sri Lanka. 1980 में वहाँ पे एक massive general strike हुआ workers का, and 40,000 public sector workers, they were removed from their job using emergency regulations, okay. Then this same power was used very sparingly to curb the Sinhalese mobs that killed and looted Tamil people in anti-Tamil program, which was happening in 1983, right. Then if you will see that Sri Lanka में ऐसा है कि that Sri Lanka saw half a dozen other presidents elected to the office, with almost all of them promising to abolish executive presidency, but once they get elected, okay, they do not abolish it. So there is an example of Chandrika Bandaranaike Kamaratunge, who proposed the abolition of the executive presidency, and she won the 1994 presidential election, but she did not abolish it. Now coming to 18th amendment. अब देखिए यहाँ पे कुछ amendments important हो जाएंगे. 18th amendment, okay, 18th amendment, then we have 19th amendment and 20th amendment, ठीक है. अब देखिए 18th अमेंडमेंट जो है ये किसने पास किया था या किसके टेन्योर में पास हुआ था? तो इट वाज पास ड्यूरिंग द टेन्योर ऑफ महिंदा राजपक्सा. So he passed 18th amendment and he made the post of president even more powerful by removing the 2-term limit. ठीक है ना. अब आप समझ सकते हैं कि जो 2-term limit होता था प्रेसिडेंट पे, उसको निकाल दिया गया. And then and the important checks and balances on the exercise of executive power, that was also removed. So there was no check and balances. तो आप अपने पावर का गलत इस्तेमाल भी कर सकते हो, okay. And the 2-term limit was also removed. So that's why there are many people who call this system as a constitutional presidential dictatorship dressed in the element of parliamentary democracy. तो Colvin R.D. Silva है who call this executive presidency as a dictatorship, that is constitutional presidential dictatorship under the garb of parliamentary democracy. ठीक, चलिए. अब उसके बाद फिर से एक बार इलेक्शन हुआ और वहाँ पे मैत्रीपाला सिरिसेना, ठीक है ना, मैत्रीपाला सिरिसेना ही बिकेम द प्रेसिडेंट एंड हिज प्राइम मिनिस्टर वाज रानिल विक्रमसिंघे. सो मैत्रीपाला सिरिसेना, ओके, ही पास द 19th अमेंडमेंट टू द श्रीलंकन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, ठीक है. एंड दिस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज इट एम्पावर्ड द पार्लियामेंट, ओके, बाय क्लिपिंग एग्जीक्यूटिव पावर्स. मतलब इसने प्रेसिडेंट के पावर को कम किया और पार्लियामेंट के पावर को बहुत बढ़ाया. बट अब इसमें भी एक लूप होल था कि इस अमेंडमेंट के बाद भी मिस्टर सिरिसेना had the confidence to abruptly sack Mr. Wickremesinghe and dissolve the parliament, triggering a constitutional crisis for over 50 days in late 2018. And then Supreme Court had to intervene to rule that the president's move was illegal. Alright. उसके बाद now coming to 20th amendment. So see, 18th amendment, it is Mahinda Rajapaksa. 19th amendment, Maithripala Sirisena, and 20th amendment will be Gotabaya Rajapaksa. फिर नवंबर 2019 में जब गोटाबाया राजपक्सा when he became the president, okay, so he overturned the 19th amendment by bringing the 20th amendment which restored the presidential executive again in Sri Lanka. Fine. अब देखिए लेटेस्ट क्या है, 21st amendment. Fine. तो अभी जो श्रीलंका के प्रेसिडेंट हैं वो कौन है? रानिल विक्रमसिंघे, ठीक है, रानिल विक्रमसिंघे. So Ranil Wickremesinghe, he is now the president. So he has passed the 21st amendment claiming to return to the agreement envisaged in 19th amendment, ठीक है ना. So now again he has passed 21st amendment coming back to 19th amendment which gave more power to parliament, but critics also say that it is mere eyewash, okay. और इसमें जो है that the attempts to tame the president in their experience had proved futile, कि पहले भी ऐसा देखा गया है कि अमेंडमेंट लाया गया है बट इफेक्टिव पावर चेक्स एंड बैलेंसेस जो है प्रेसिडेंशियल पावर पे वो नहीं आज तक लगा है। अगर अब हम देखें दैट एज ऑफ टुडे अब क्या है, प्रेसिडेंट कैन स्टिल होल्ड एनी नंबर ऑफ मिनिस्टीरियल पोर्टफोलियोज, ओके, which was limited by 19th amendment. Then president still has the power to determine the number of ministers and ministries and to assign subjects and functions to such ministers. Then president can use his discretion in appointing secretaries to the ministries as well. And the independence of constitutional council, which enables and monitors independent commission, has also come into question. Taking some information about the 95th Academy Award. So 95th Academy Awards, which is also known as Oscars. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे अगर आप देखेंगे तो इंडिया से नाटू नाटू, इट वन इन बेस्ट ओरिजिनल सॉन्ग, ओके, नाटू नाटू बेस्ट ओरिजिनल सॉन्ग, एंड देन इन बेस्ट डॉक्यूमेंट्री शॉर्ट, बेस्ट डॉक्यूमेंट्री शॉर्ट, तो यहाँ में एलिफेंट विस्परर्स has won. There was one more nomination from India, that is All That Breathes. So it was nominated under the Best Documentary Feature, but इस केस में Best Documentary Feature में All That Breathes it did not won the award, it went to Navalny, ठीक है ना, Navalny. So award went to Navalny. Now जो Navalny जो documentary है, it is based on the Alexei Navalny, ठीक है. So if you will see that who was Alexei Navalny, so Alexei Navalny was the opposition leader, okay, of Russia, and there are and it has been regarded that he was poisoned by Vladimir Putin. He was poison, nuclear poison उनका हुआ था, ठीक है. So if you will see, the film is about the poisoning of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny allegedly by Russian President Vladimir Putin. अब ये जो Navalny है, it is being released on HBO Max. The next is Supreme Court reserves judgment on Maharashtra political row. So यहाँ पे Supreme Court has reserved the judgment. Now we will see that what the final judgment of the Supreme Court is. So यहाँ पे देखिए Justice P.S. Narasimha, he has also outlined some of the problems with the regional party. He is saying that there is no freedom in regional parties. Okay, and then about the governor, he says that governor can call for trust vote on being approached by a group of MLAs who have left the party. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे देखिए ये जो केस है ये 10th schedule से रिलेटेड है, दैट इज रिलेटेड टू एंटी डिफेक्शन, वेयर द गवर्नमेंट इज गोइंग टू वेयर द सुप्रीम कोर्ट इज गोइंग टू डिसाइड दैट whether if somebody is leaving the party, okay, or coming out of the party, will that be considered as defection or it has protection under anti defection law. तो यहाँ पर आप देखेंगे that the Chief Justice asked whether the governor, oblivious to the provisions of the 10th schedule, could call for a trust vote if a group of MLAs came to him saying that they have left the ruling party. So यहाँ पे the Chief Justice has said that forget the 10th schedule, he cannot call for a trust vote by recognizing a faction in a political party which has no identity and which has no constitutional identity. They cannot be seen as a group, they are individuals. There is no concept of a group within a legislature, each is an individual. Government formation is only on alliances. तो यहाँ पे देखिए चीफ जस्टिस ने एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट कहा है रिलेटेड टू महाराष्ट्र, that the governor could only call for a trust vote if a member party in a coalition shifts and not when individuals within a party leave. ठीक है, जैसे कि फॉर एग्जांपल अगर कोई अलायंस है, ठीक है ना, मान लीजिए कि 3 पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज का अलायंस है, समझ लीजिए कि शिवसेना है, नेशनलिस्ट कांग्रेस पार्टी एनसीपी है और कांग्रेस खुद है, इन तीनों ने मिलकर महाविकास आघाड़ी गवर्नमेंट बनाया था, ठीक है. तो यहाँ पे ये कहना है जो लास्ट पैराग्राफ है कि ये जो अलायंस में अगर कोई एक पार्टी शिफ्ट करती है अपनी सपोर्ट, तब ट्रस्ट वोट बुलाना चाहिए था. अगर इंडिविजुअल मेंबर्स शिवसेना के बाहर निकल के आ रहे हैं और उसके बेसिस पर अगर ट्रस्ट वोट बुलाया जा रहा है तो that has been by the Supreme Court judge has not been called for. The next comes that India welcomes confirmation of Eric Garcetti as US ambassador. So here India has welcomed the confirmation of US ambassador designate Eric Garcetti by the Senate, saying that New Delhi looks forward to work with him. तो यहाँ पे अगर आप देखेंगे एरिक गैरसेट्टी, सो ही वाज द फॉर्मर गवर्नर ऑफ लॉस एंजलिस and he was nominated by Joseph Biden for the post of US ambassador to India in July 2021, but it was facing various hurdles. Okay, but now finally Senate has confirmed him. Now coming to AUKUS again, so यहाँ पे देखिए AUKUS के बारे में information आया है, that is that where Australia is going to acquire nuclear attack submarines in the interim under AUKUS. So initially Australia will receive 3 second-hand SSNs in next decade, and eventually between early 2040 to late 2050 Australia will get 5 new SSN to be designed and developed by UK. The next is Patrick French, historian and author with deep India connect, dies in UK. So obituary कर रहे हैं. So world renowned biographer and historian Patrick French, who was the inaugural dean of the School of Art and Science at Ahmedabad University, passed away in London after a 4-year battle with cancer. So if you will just see that he has written many important books related to the history of India. Okay, and then he is also known for declining the award, that is Order of the British Empire, in 2003 by the British Empire. So see, so some of the important books. So his first book, which was published in 1994, was Young Husband, The Last Great Imperial Adventure. So it is about the British soldier Young Husband who led a military expedition to Tibet in 1904 through Rohtang Pass and Sikkim. Then if you will see that he also wrote Liberty or Death, India's Journey to Independence and Division in 1998. Then he wrote Tibet and Tibet, A Personal History of a Lost Land in 2003. Now in the last paragraph you will see that Mr. Patrick French, he was working on The Golden Woman, which is the authorized biography of Doris Lessing, who was the activist and novelist. The next is Border Road Organization opens strategic Zojila Pass in record 68 days. So we all know that in winter the passes, they are no more accessible because of snow. So Zojila Pass, it was closed for 68 days, but now it has been reopened again. So the Zojila Pass, it is a pass which is located in Great Himalayan Range, and it provides accessibility between Union Territory of Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir. The next is India reports over 700 cases in one day. तो यहाँ पर आप देखेंगे कि जो इंसाइगॉग लैब है, इट हैज मॉनिटरिंग द जीनोम कोविड वायरस, दैट इज XBB.1.16, ओके, विच इज अ फास्ट स्प्रेडिंग वेरिएंट बिलोंगिंग टू XBB.1 फैमिली. तो यहाँ पे 6 स्टेट्स हैं जहाँ पे ये देखा गया है, ठीक है. सो वी विल हैव दैट दिस हैव बीन रिपोर्टेड फ्रॉम महाराष्ट्र, and the Union Health Ministry has wrote to 6 states where the virus is spreading very fast. So you will see that this is Maharashtra, Gujarat, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Karnataka where the cases are rising. तो यहाँ पे वेरिएंट का नाम इंपॉर्टेंट होगा XBB.1.16, which is part of XBB.1 family. Now from the world, Poland to be first NATO member to give MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine. This is very important. So Polish President Andrzej Duda has said that his country is planning to give Ukraine a dozen MiG-29 fighter jets, making it the first NATO member to cede to the Ukrainian government request. The next is British authorities have banned the Chinese-owned video sharing app TikTok from government mobile phones on security grounds. तो इंडिया ने भी पहले इसको बैन किया था जून 2020 में, बाद में यूएस और यूरोपियन यूनियन ने भी इसको बैन किया, अब यूके ने भी इसको बैन किया. दैट मिनिस्टर्स एंड सिविल सर्वेंट्स दे कैन नॉट यूज दिस TikTok, okay, on work phones and other devices. Then coming from China, the news, China's Communist Party takes more control in overall of government. तो हमने कुछ दिन पहले पढ़ा था यहाँ पे चाइना के बारे में, नेशनल पीपल्स कांग्रेस which confirmed the continuation of Xi Jinping as the president of China for the 3rd term. Okay, and then there were various structural reforms which were proposed over there. Now see, again China's Communist Party has taken more control in overhauling the government. तो अब क्या है कि पहले जो एक होता था स्टेट काउंसिल करके एक इंस्टीट्यूशन होता था. तो यहाँ पे क्या है कि जो डिसीजन मेकिंग प्रोसेस है वो स्टेट काउंसिल में न रह के अब जो कमिटीज़ जो बनेंगी अंडर चाइनीज़ कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी, ठीक है, कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी ऑफ चाइना के सेंट्रल कमेटी के अंदर वेरियस कमिटीज़ होंगी. नाउ दे विल हैव द डिसीजन मेकिंग पावर. नाउ द स्टेट काउंसिल विच इज़ हेडेड बाय प्रीमियर, it will have the executive power. They will execute the policy, but they will not decide the policy. Policy decide कौन करेगा? That is the committee which has been established under CPC Central Committee. Fine. तो यहाँ पे अगर हम देखें तो व्हाट आर द प्लान्स नाउ, तो सी यहाँ पे अगर हम देखेंगे दैट देयर इज नाउ सेंट्रल कमीशन फॉर फाइनेंस, okay, to strengthen the central committee's centralized leadership over financial work. Then there will be a central commission for science and technology which will push forward the building of national innovation system and structural scientific and technological reform. Then there will be central committee for social work which will be working at the grassroots level and as well as party building work in mixed ownership and non-public enterprises. Then the top body in charge of Hong Kong affairs, the Hong Kong and Macau affairs office, has also been moved of the state council and it will directly report to central committee. Okay. The next is Macron's government rams through pension reform without vote. US releases video of alleged collision of drone and Russian jet. So now see, this is the news related with रशिया यूक्रेन क्राइसिस. तो यहाँ पे यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ने एक वीडियो निकाला है शोइंग इट हाउ अनसेफ एंड अनप्रोफेशनल इंटरसेप्ट बाय रशियन मिलिट्री जेट्स व्हेन वन स्ट्रक एन अमेरिकन ड्रोन. तो रशिया ने इसको डिनाई किया है बट 42 सेकेंड का वीडियो इंडियन मिलिट्री ने इसको रिलीज किया है विच शोज दैट Su-27 जेट बियरिंग डाउन ऑन अ प्रोपेलर ड्राइवन MQ-9 drones. Okay. The next is Macron's government rams through pension reform without vote. So Emmanuel Macron, okay, he has passed a controversial pension reform where he has raised the retirement age from 62 to 64 years, okay, after a week of demonstrations and strikes. So he moved it without a vote in parliament, so it can bring more trouble to him in the domestic front. Now for economy, Credit Suisse $54 billion lifeline gives global banks tentative relief. तो हम आपने एक टर्म का नाम सुना होगा जिसको कहते हैं कॉन्टैजियन. इकोनॉमी में कॉन्टैजियन का मतलब होता है स्पिल ओवर इफेक्ट. स्पिल ओवर इफेक्ट मतलब कि एक घटना कहीं घटी और अब वो स्पाइरल हो रहा है बाकी वर्ल्ड में, ठीक है ना. तो यहाँ पे क्या हुआ, वी हैव रेड अबाउट टू बैंक्स, दैट इज सिलिकॉन वैली बैंक एंड सिग्नेचर बैंक. ठीक है, सिलिकॉन वैली बैंक एंड सिग्नेचर बैंक, द टू ट्रबल्ड बैंक ऑफ USA. नाउ आफ्टर द क्लोजर ऑफ दिस टू बैंक्स, okay, now what is happening, now this economic crisis, now it has the potential to disrupt the global financial system also. So now let's come back to Europe now. तो यूरोप में एक कंपनी, बैंकिंग कंपनी है इन स्विट्जरलैंड, दैट इज क्रेडिट स्विस. So it has got $54 billion lifeline which gives global banks tentative relief. So Swiss Central Bank जो है, it has provided liquidity to Credit Suisse, okay, so that it can honor its depositors. So Credit Suisse sought up to shore up liquidity and restore investor confidence on Thursday by borrowing up to $54 billion from Switzerland's central bank after a stock slump fanned fears of a global financing crisis. So Credit Suisse briefly bounced from a 25% fall after it had, but then it traded at 20% higher. तो अगर यूरोप की बात करें तो Credit Suisse is the first major bank to be thrown an emergency lifeline since 2008 financial crisis. अब यहाँ पे अगर आप देखेंगे कि one of the main reason for failure of these banks in USA was the rising interest rate, rising benchmark interest rate. जैसे कि Federal Reserve is going on increasing the interest rate. So the real earnings of these banks, it eroded because they had made significant investment in government treasury bonds etc. तो अब उसका जब रेट बढ़ने लगा तो जो उनकी अर्निंग्स है वो कम होने लगी. So this is one of the reason. Now if you will see that यूरोप में भी क्रेडिट स्विस जो है it is facing trouble, but still European Central Bank has raised the interest rate by 50 basis points on Thursday. Okay. अब इसी से रिलेटेड अब देखिए इंडिया में तो सेंसेक्स जो है वो भी स्लाइड किया, बट अब देखिए यहाँ पे हमारे जो चीफ इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजर हैं, देखिए वो क्या कह रहे हैं, दैट दे नीड मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी अमिड राइजिंग ग्लोबल अनसर्टेनिटी सेज चीफ इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजर. सो आवर चीफ इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजर वी अनंता नागेश्वरन हैज सेड that global uncertainty has been rising after the recent development in the United States and government, business and individuals should keep margin of safety in fiscal, corporate and saving account planning. ठीक है. The next is appointment. Government names Mohanty as chairperson of PFRDA. So the central government has appointed Deepak Mohanty as chairperson of the Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority and Mamta Shankar as whole-time member, that is economics. तो यहाँ पे जो मिस्टर मोहंती जो हैं, ही इज़ अ फॉर्मर होल टाइम मेंबर ऑफ PFRDA, and Miss Mamta Shankar, she belongs to Indian Economic Services 1993 batch, and she was senior economic advisor in Department of Food and Public Distribution. Then TCS CEO Gopinathan to quit, veteran Krithivasan to succeed. So Tata Consultancy Services के MD and CEO Rajesh Gopinathan have decided to step down to pursue other interests. Okay, and then the new CEO will be K. Krithivasan, who is presently president and global head of the banking, financial services, and insurance business group as CEO designate. So friends, that's all for today. We will meet tomorrow again with a daily Hindu analysis. Till then, have a nice time. Take care. Thank you.